Hello everyone. Recently I have been talking about the Division quite a bit. These conversations have happened with friends or in the Lenovo gaming channel on Twitch. You are welcome to join the chat if you wish to have a great conversation. Now that I've talked about enough, I feel confident to do a recording. So the Division recently launched its update with the Incursions. I have mixed feelings about this. To understand why I have such mixed feelings, you have to first understand that I was a beta tester for 10 years. I've been gaming for a lot longer than that. I've been with games that have received the Underdog Achievement. The Underdog Achievement is something given to a game when their sales are less than 1 million copies. I think it's fair to say that I've been with not only enough games that have succeeded, but also I've been with enough games that did not succeed to the point where I can see the warning signs a mile away. The Division, while it's certainly got some good ideas, it certainly has a lot of warning signs right now. Let's talk about that. So, the best thing you can do for a game is give the players more content. However, you have to be extremely careful in how you do it. Now, I will say that I do appreciate the incursions, the new items and all of that. However, there are some things that I don't like about it. Let's start with something that I've been talking about in prior recordings, and that is diversity. I used the example of MMOs. I said that in MMOs you have diversity because you have, um, classes like warriors, archers, or things of that nature. Because of the different classes, you had diversity, right? You had a person who could tank, you could have a person that did damage, so on and so forth. In the Division, you don't really have that. For the most part, everybody is basically the same build. For the most part, tanks are going to be stamina and electronics or something like that. Glass cannon builds are going to be all firearms for the most part. So there's just nothing that separates one person from another. There's no heavy armor, there's no heavy weapons, there's nothing of that in the Division. Now with the updates of the new set items, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody for the most part is going to be on one set piece or the other. Then of course the weapons are going to be on the same page too. They added the new AUG recipe and the new M1A recipe for DZ level 75. I mean, the M1A is basically the new AWP, if you're familiar with the Counter-Strike reference. And the AUG is just basically to be the new Vector. I mean, they haven't really, changed the game in any shape or form or given diversity on that end either. If they really wanted to add diversity, they would add a lot more recipes than that. Add in higher level assault rifle recipes, light machine guns, or something. So with diversity talked about, let's move on to RNG. RNG was already terrible before this entire patch. Now it's going to get even worse. So let me explain why. Prior to this, there was a YouTube recording talking about the RNG of the Division. The person said that you could craft something 5,000 times and never get what you want. I can sort of confirm that. Before the patch, I crafted at least 28 vectors. I crafted about 21 armor pieces and a couple of other things that I can't remember. I never got what I wanted. I have literally been stuck in Division. And I'm not complaining or anything. I realize that that's just RNG and all of that. However, it does prevent me from fully experiencing the game. I've said this as well in the prior recordings. One of the things you'll notice is, for the most part, anybody that goes rogue in the DZ are going to be well equipped. So I can't experience PvP because I've gotten shafted by RNG. This is just one of the many examples of the game that I just can't experience because, I'm not getting much of a break. Now, with the new set items, it's going to get worse. The new set items have more stats to them, and you'll notice they have a bar under the electronics, firearms, and stamina. This means that the armor can roll one of those three stats. So on top of the new stats and that, you're essentially increasing the rolls. It doesn't help when they've basically doubled the amount of materials needed to convert blues to yellows. I understand that you have to make the game somewhat slow so players don't achieve the end game quickly. However, this is too slow, in my opinion. I think it's going to be more prevalent over the next couple of weeks. My suggestion to the Division in these regards: listen to your player base. This is one of the biggest warning signs that I have seen in the course of my 10 years as a beta tester. One of the biggest faults is the game developers not listening to the community. A lot of them claim they do, but in reality they don't. Whenever the community is warning you of something, you do the complete opposite. I'm starting to see that with the Division. I have been very vocal about what needs to be done in the forums and in my recordings and of course on Twitch. But here's the thing. I'm such a small person that nobody's going to listen to me. When somebody finally does, they either say this is a terrible idea and troll me into oblivion, or they just don't listen. So if the Division is listening to this, or somebody that is, I guess you can say, bigger than me, then what you need to do is this. Take the crafting back to where it was before the patch. Do not double the resources needed. Yes, I know it seems pretty crazy to do it considering all the yellow drops and things of that nature, but you have to first realize that the yellow drop stuff is just like the Division tech. It's going to be so overfarmed, you'll be heavily reliant on purples if the DZ is busy in that particular day. The next thing I would do is I would make it so that if you have a bar under the firearms, stamina, or electronics, you can choose which one you want the armor to roll. That will reduce at least one RNG factor. Next thing I would do is, if you don't want that idea, then make it so that you can swap stats. What I mean is this. You can go to the recalibration station and you can switch, say, stamina to firearms, but that takes away the one rule you have with the recalibration station. Instead, set up a completely different thing that's separate from that called swapping. It allows you to change from firearms to stamina or something like that. Third thing I would do is I would make it so that the stats you roll with firearms, stamina, or electronics is always a guaranteed max roll. Same with the armor. That will reduce 2 more RNG factors right there. It's not going to reduce all the RNG factors, but it will at least make the RNG more favorable. Fourth thing I would do: remove the Division tech requirement to craft recipes from the Dark Zone. Instead, make it an option. What I mean is this. Let's just say you're crafting the AUG, right? and you choose to roll 4 Division Tech into that, then you're guaranteed at least 1 talent. That's going to remove RNG factors on that end. Plus, it makes crafting easier. Like I said with the yellow items, even with all the new stuff, the Division Tech stuff is still hard to get. And of course, with the RNG still being bad, is making it virtually impossible for most players to get, a foothold in the game because, um, they're just not able to get to that point. So with all that RNG factor stuff talked about, let's move on to the next thing um, that we should discuss with this. I do appreciate the open world aspect to the Division. However, I think the end game is not what it should be. What I mean is this, is the game doesn't really cater to people who just want to do PvE or things of that nature. What I'm talking about is because you essentially force the players into a PvP situation that just want PvE because they have to go to the Dark Zone to basically get all the in-gear game that they need, right? Because the AUG and M1A are considered your in-game weapons, right? And if you're doing the Nomad set, well, that just increases the amount of stuff you have to do in the Dark Zone. So for players who just want to PvE and don't want to bother with PvE, well, they can't avoid it because you haven't made the game in such a way that it's possible for somebody to go elsewhere to essentially grind to that particular point in the game. I can say personally that I don't like doing the Dark Zone. This is because on the PC version, there are a crap ton of rogues. They love to gank you and just be plain old buttholes. I'm not talking like the standard stuff going on. I'm talking like people who purposely gank you, like, at the extraction zone just to make sure you don't get your items, or they camp in front of the safe house, right? Then of course there's other aggravations of the Dark Zone that add to me not wanting to be there. Like people running in front of your gun all the time and then you accidentally go to rogue status because of some butthole that has no shotgun but has decided to be up in the mob's face. I can list a bunch of other things, but I think you get the point. That the Division should cater to the people who just want to do PvE. And if you're not going to do that, then at least start fixing some of the problems with the Dark Zone. Start with the biggest one, which is those people running in front of you. It's very annoying to deal with. This recording has gone on for quite a while, so I'm going to end it here. But if you want to talk to me further, I've mentioned where you can find me. You can also message me on Twitch. You can send me a tweet on Twitter. And I've even set up a Division Discord sub-channel in my server so that if anybody from YouTube or the forums wishes to talk about this further, then we can. That's all I have. Thanks for listening.